Okay, let's dive in. We've found this, well, truly bizarre intersection today
Uh-huh.
between two worlds that you'd think couldn't be further apart.
Yeah.
We're talking ancient ordered Freemasonry
Right.
and the, aggressive anti-establishment chaos of 1980s punk rock.
It does sound like a philosophical mashup, doesn't it? Almost absurd.
Totally.
But, the sources we looked at, they reveal something pretty startling.
Which is?
Despite these wildly different looks, aprons versus safety pins,
Yeah.
both systems fundamentally are really engaged in the exact same thing.
Okay.
Rigorous systemic self-improvement, training the individual.
So it's not about the setting the pit or the lodge, it's about the person changing.
Precisely. The refinement happening inside is the whole point.
Yeah.
And to get that, we really need to start with the key Masonic metaphor. The Ashlar.
The Ashlar.
Absolutely. So the journey starts with what they call the Rough Ashlar.
Okay.
Think of it as a raw, jagged stone straight from the quarry, full of flaws, rough edges.
And that symbolizes?
It symbolizes a person in their, let's say, natural, unmanaged state. Our ignorance, maybe our vices, that raw energy before it's directed.
Okay, I can see that. And if you think about, like, the classic 80s punk kid, maybe angry, rebellious, volatile.
Yeah.
They're kind of the perfect image of that Rough Ashlar, aren't they? Raw potential, but totally unpolished.
Exactly. So the goal then for the Mason is to work towards the perfect Ashlar.
The finished product.
Well, sort of. It's the stone that's been smoothed, squared, made ready for the building. It represents character that's been refined through discipline, through effort.
But it's perfect.
Yeah.
Like done.
Good point. No, it's an ideal. It's something you're always working towards perpetually. It's not a status you achieve and then, you're finished. The work is lifelong.
Okay. An ongoing process. So if the goal is to chip away at our own flaws, like smoothing that stone, you need tools, right?
You do.
Let's look at the very first tool given to a brand new Mason, an entered apprentice, the Common Gavel.
Yep. The gavel.
Now, actual stonemasons use it to knock off big chunks, right? Rough edges.
Exactly. Operative Masons, yeah. But symbolically, in Freemasonry,
That's the command.
the command is to use the force of conscience. That gavel represents your own inner ability, your will to strike down your own vices.
Like what kind of vices?
Well, improper habits, maybe ignorance, apathy, the superfluous pieces of your character that hold you back.
So it's internal work.
It's immediate, constant self-improvement, using your own moral compass, your own authority to correct yourself.
It sounds like it requires some brutal honesty with yourself, your own hand hitting your own bad habits.
It absolutely does. But the gavel is for those sort of more obvious flaws. What about the structure needed for just like daily life, discipline, wisdom?
Yeah, everyday stuff.
Well, that's where other tools come in. Tools for measured living, like the 24-inch gauge.
The ruler?
Sort of, yeah. It represents the 24 hours in the day. And it's a clear instruction for time management, for moderation, budgeting your time properly for work, for your duties, for rest, even for helping others.
So managing time is part of building character.
Absolutely. You can't build strong character without ethical stability in how you actually live day to day. It's foundational.
Okay, so manage time, strike down vices.
Mm-hmm.
What about the mind itself? Turning, raw thoughts into something constructive.
That's the chisel.
The chisel.
Yeah, it symbolizes the benefits of education, of cultivating your mind, learning, thinking critically.
So it refines your thinking.
Exactly. It's about moving from what they might call rude thoughts to becoming a more civilized being, sharpening your intellect through learning.
Gavel, gauge, chisel, it's a whole toolkit for inner work.
It is. These tools, together, they prepare the Mason to act with precision, with stability, making sure their own character foundation is sound before they try to build anything bigger.
Okay, that sounds, well, very ordered, very structured, a time-honored way to build character.
It is.
So, how on earth do we connect that to the sweaty, chaotic, loud world of 1980s punk rock? Which seems defined by rejecting every single one of those rules.
Well, the pivot, the connection point, happens when an individual looks at the society they're supposed to fit into and decides that society itself is the Rough Ashlar, that it's corrupt or flawed or just fundamentally broken.
So they turn the critique outwards.
Exactly. Punk was absolutely defined by rejecting authority, by questioning everything, and crucially, by embracing the DIY ethic, do it yourself.
Right. The visual contrast is just, it's funny. You swap the white gloves and apron for ripped jeans, safety pins, studded belts.
Totally.
And their lodge or temple was like a dive bar basement or a grimy skate park.
That's it. And that fierce independence, that rejection of the mainstream, it wasn't just LA or New York.
Yeah.
Our sources point out how the scene spread to the most unlikely places, like Salt Lake City, Utah.
Seriously. In Zion.
Yep. Deep in a very conservative stronghold. That tells you how powerful that drive for independence was. It was so intense, so confrontational, that authorities, like the LAPD back then, often treated punk shows like they were basically riots waiting to happen.
Wow. Just assumed trouble.
Pretty much. But here's the unexpected twist where the parallel really clicks.
Wow.
That DIY ethic. It became the punk's own version of Masonic self-improvement.
How so? Because they were doing stuff.
Precisely. Because they refused to rely on corporations, on the established music industry, on society structures, they had to become self-reliant.
Okay.
They booked their own tours, printed their own signs, silkscreened their own T-shirts, figured out how to play instruments with no lessons.
You built their own world.
They did. And in rejecting the rough edges of society, they were maybe unintentionally forced to hone their own skills to smooth their own rough edges.
Hey, we're chiseling out a new sense of self.
That's a great way to put it. Focusing intensely on authenticity, resourcefulness, personal responsibility, taking control because no one else would do it for them.
That internal chiseling, that focus on self-reliance. Okay, I see the connection now. And that led somewhere even more surprising within punk itself, right?
Oh, absolutely. It led to maybe the most radical, ethical turn within the scene. The straight edge movement.
Straight edge. Okay, this is fascinating.
It's a real paradox, isn't it? You have this subculture built on freedom, maybe even anarchy.
Yeah, breaking rules.
And suddenly, out of that comes this movement of intense self-restraint.
Wait. So within punk, the ultimate anti-mainstream scene, the big act of rebellion became deciding not to drink or do drugs.
Pretty much. That's the beautiful irony of it. Straight edge was this conscious, deliberate rejection of the hedonism, the alcohol, the drugs, the casual sex. That was pretty common in rock and roll, including parts of punk itself.
Why? What was the thinking?
Well, Ian MacKaye, who fronted Minor Threat and is kind of seen as the originator, he argued that getting wasted, substance abuse, that was actually a very mainstream activity. It was just following a different kind of script.
Not really rebellious at all then.
Exactly. For him, real autonomy, real punk freedom meant having total clarity, complete self-control, living life on your own terms, not enslaved by addiction or excess.
Wow. So, okay. The Mason is told to take the gavel, symbolically, to chip away at internal vices like ignorance or apathy.
Right, inside the lodge.
And the straight edge punk was taking a kind of figurative gavel to external temptations like booze and drugs right there in the mosh pit.
That's it. That's the functional parallel. They were using self-discipline, this moral restraint, as their ultimate act of nonconformity.
Against the mainstream and against the excesses within their own scene.
Exactly. They carved out this lifestyle that challenged both. And some sources suggest this self-imposed discipline. It was seen by some as posing an even greater challenge to authority than just typical rock and roll decadence.
Why? Because it was focused.
Because it represented this pure, uncompromised clarity, a clear head, a controlled will, something that simple excess couldn't really achieve. The rebellion wasn't just furious anymore, it was focused, sharpened.
Okay, that makes sense. It's a different kind of power.
It is, and this internal discipline, this focus, whether it was learned through the structured rules of the lodge or the chaotic resilience of the punk scene, it really set the stage for the next phase, maturation.
Moving into adulthood.
Yeah. The lessons learned, DIY, critical thinking, self-reliance, maybe even that straight-edge discipline, they didn't just disappear. They helped transform these, unruly misfits into genuinely conscientious contributors later in life.
The punk rock forge actually worked. It shaped them.
It seems so. You see these stories like Kevin Salk. He was deep in the LA scene documenting bands like Black Flag in the early 80s.
Yeah, gritty stuff.
Decades later, he's an investment banker at Oppenheimer. And he credits those punk days, the intensity, the problem-solving for his confidence and creativity in the corporate world.
Wow, from Black Flag to boardrooms. That's quite a jump.
It is. The confidence forged in chaos became an asset. But maybe the best kind of fictional illustration of this whole journey from rough rebel to responsible architect is that film SLC Punk.
Oh, yeah, great movie.
Yeah.
It really shows the downside of just pure chaos.
Absolutely. You have the character Heroin Bob.
Tragic.
Yeah. His complete rejection of any system, any discipline, even basic self-care like seeing a doctor when he's sick, it literally leads to his death. His own internal system just fails.
And that's the wake-up call for the main character, Stevo.
Exactly. That failure is the catalyst. And Stevo's final decision to go to Harvard Law School. People sometimes see that as, selling out, abandoning Punk.
Right. Joining the system he hated.
But the film, and our sources echo this, gives a much deeper reason. Stevo realizes, quote, "You can do a hell of a lot more damage within the system than out of it."
Ah. So it's not giving up the fight at all.
No.
It's strategic.
Yeah.
It's acquiring leverage. Taking the discipline and the critical thinking skills honed outside the system.
Yeah.
And applying them inside where you can actually make changes.
Yeah.
With precision.
That's precisely it. It's the shift from just chaotic, maybe low-impact rebellion to something calculated, high leverage, what we could call pragmatic, righteous re-engineering.
Righteous re-engineering. I like that.
It means using the same kind of ethical precision a mason might use to design a building, but applying it to restructure flawed parts of society itself.
Okay, so if we pull back and look at the bigger picture here.
Yeah.
Rebellion, then, isn't just random anger. It can actually be a kind of ethical duty when the system itself fails.
That's a really insightful way to frame it. Rebellion becomes a function of ethical accountability. When the governing system, whatever it is, fails its fundamental mission. Its duty to liberty, maybe. Its basic promise.
But that creates a conflict, doesn't it? Especially for someone like a Mason who is explicitly told to be a peaceable subject to the civil powers. What happens when those powers become unjust? Where does your loyalty really lie?
That's the critical ethical question, and the deeper Masonic tradition suggests that while the organization might have to formally disown rebellion to survive,
right, to protect itself,
the individual's ultimate loyalty remains with freedom, with justice. That's the overriding moral consideration. But, and this is crucial, just rebellion, righteous rebellion can't just be a chaotic mess.
Or you just create another kind of Rough Ashlar,
right,
more chaos.
Exactly. It requires the same kind of measured precision as Masonic work. You need the symbolic square to ensure your actions are just, the compasses to keep your passions, your anger, in due bounds.
So control, discipline, even in rebellion.
Yes. To avoid just reacting with anger, to avoid chaotic escalation, you need to aim for a morally reliable outcome, not just a violent one.
And what's the big obstacle that this morally reliable individual, whether they came from the lodge or the punk scene, inevitably faces when they start demanding accountability from institutions?
There's a common adversary, the phenomenon of victim blaming.
Explain that.
Well, when systems fail ethically, institutionally, politically, the easiest path for those in charge is often to deflect, to shift the blame away from the systemic failure.
And on to the people who are suffering because of it.
Precisely. On to the individual victim. So the righteous rebel, the person who has done the hard work of refining their own character and learned discipline, needs the integrity and the clarity to fight that specific narrative.
To push back against the deflection and expose the real systemic problem.
Exactly. To demand systemic accountability, not just individual blame.
Wow. Okay. This deep dive has really connected some very unexpected dots.
It really has.
The core thread, it seems, running through both the Masonic Lodge and the 80s mosh pit, is this relentless pursuit of character mastery. It's about taking that raw, chaotic, natural state we all start in, and through discipline, structured or self-imposed, turning it into something ethically stable, reliable.
Like the Masons say, we are each the architect, the builder, and yes, the very stone of our own character.
A lifelong project.
And that transformation, that self-mastery, it's never just for yourself. It always points towards a larger social purpose. Well, once an individual achieves that measure of self-mastery, they are sort of expected to graduate to the next level of tools, the tools of the Master Mason. And the final, perhaps most important symbolic tool there is the trowel.
The trowel. Okay, not for striking or measuring. That's for spreading the cement, right?
Right.
Binding the stones together in the wall.
Precisely. Symbolically, it represents spreading brotherly love and affection, the qualities that unite the human family, that bind individuals together into a strong, cohesive, reliable community, a stable structure.
Okay, so the punk ethos, maybe especially straight edge, it gave people the gavel of self-discipline, the chisel of critical thought.
Yeah, it equipped them for that internal work.
But if the ultimate goal isn't just fixing yourself, but strengthening the whole community, then the question for that grown-up rebel, the one who's maybe achieved that righteous re-engineering mindset, having found that balance, having acquired the tools and the leverage, what is the mortar, or maybe what is the trowel that you now need to use?
What binds things together?
Yeah. What do you use now to actually cement the structures of your community to make it stronger, more reliable, more just?
That's the question. What's your trowel?
That is definitely something for you, our listeners, to mull over.